Well, I guess what should I do for the news? We should talk about the cruise, but we should pull up a picture. Now, I was going to pull up a picture of this cruise that just happened, but wouldn't you know it, the Star Trek cruise always like on the last day of the cruise, they're already hitting you hard with
With the
next
next
year's.
year.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
here's next year's information. February 20th through 27th, 2026. They're going to Port Canaveral, Puerto Plata, San Juan, and Cocononoke. Okay.
Yeah. The
So,
first one is the starting point. So they're
yeah,
coming out of Port Canaveral and then they're going to those three locations.
awesome. So, Marina,
Yep.
what a coincidence. You were on the Star Trek cruise this year, and
That's right.
we saw a lot of people posting and a lot of people talking. How many cruises have you been on so far?
This was my fourth.
How did this one stack up against the others?
Well, it was a fun one. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was very worried because my very first one was in 2020, which was the 25th anniversary of Voyager, and it was on Explorer of the Seas that was leaving out of Miami into Caribbean. And it just so happens that right now, 2025, is the anniversary of Voyager, and we were on the Explorer of the Seas, and we were leaving out of Miami into the Caribbean. And I was like, if we come back and the world ends again, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I
Thankfully, so far,
know.
we seem to be hanging on. Fingers crossed. It was great fun. So it was a wonderful celebration. The ship was properly Voyagerized. So we were
Nice.
celebrating 30th
Cool.
anniversary of Voyager all over the ship. Great guest list, great events, lots of partying, lots of music, screenings, panels, trivia games, just generally games and performances. It was intense. I mean, I don't think I actually had a proper night's sleep probably until like from Wednesday to Thursday. I want to say. So basically the entire week, just one breath. You just whoop. And it kind of feels because now I like it feels like I was gone for a week and way too much stuff happened in the real world. Let's not
Hmm.
talk about that for now. So yeah, it was lovely.
I think
It's
more
hard to
happened on the cruise in a lot of ways. There's a
yeah,
lot
I
that
mean
happened.
there's a lot happening. Exactly. I mean, the scheduling is just not stopping. I mean, they start in the morning except for the port days. Port days, obviously, for most of the day, everybody's gone. Well, not everybody. There are certain folks who are signing up for excursions. Other people just kind of stay back on the ship and enjoy themselves, hang with their friends, exercise.
Yeah, what's the
And then
reason for not leaving the ship? Are there,
well, there are folks who, well, might not be interested. That's totally valid. Folks who have already been there multiple times. I
yeah.
mean, there are cruisers who are not necessarily starter cruise, but they just cruise a lot, so they've already been to Riviera Maya. So that's, Cozumel, Costa Maya, and Belize, and so they might not be interested in seeing, stomping the old grounds again. It could be just I know that, for example, Belize City had a travel warning on the Department of State website. So I know some folks had concerns and they opted to just stay on board and enjoy themselves in the bars and just, I don't know. Like I said, hang out with friends, sleep. It's a vacation after all. It's a very intense vacation, but it's a vacation nonetheless. So yeah, I started saying that it's difficult to compare different cruises because you do have different
Hmm.
themes, you do have different decorations, you have different casts coming on board. The schedule is slightly different. Sometimes you have a little bit more performances, sometimes you have a little bit more Q&As.
Hmm.
So far, we've been on three different ships between, well, those four cruises that I've been to. Obviously, just because I'm not there, cruise is still happening.
Hmm.
But though, so I've been on three different ships and same class, but they're slightly different. So, for example, I think I enjoyed the one that's is gonna be next. No, actually, next year's is gonna be a brand new one. It's gonna be Adventure of the Seas. I
Ooh,
haven't sailed that one yet, but 2022 was also out of Port Canaveral, and I think it was the Mariner. Correct me if I'm wrong,
that's a good
folks who
name.
are maybe so yeah, it's just slightly different experiences. It's sort of like
Hmm.
Vegas every year. It's Vegas, it's gonna be hot, it's
I was
August, but
thinking today about
conventions are
when we
slightly
went to
different.
Bally's. Yeah, that was a very
Yeah,
different
right?
experience. Bally's was
Yeah.
interesting. Real quick,
Yeah.
everybody, in the live chat, we've got a poll going on. The question is Star Trek cruise. Well, that's not much of a question, but you'll figure it out from the poll answers. I've been before, but not this year. or I went this year, or I've never been. Those are your options.
Never have
Um,
I ever.
hmm.
Yeah.
I've
I
been
mean,
once.
there were several folks on board who have been to every single one of them. So at this point, I mean,
That's
they're probably the perfect people to ask because they've been on the
What?
original three, which were with Norwegian line, whereas the starting from four onwards, it was all Royal Caribbean.
And Melissa, you've been twice, I think you said.
Twice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Twice.
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.
Fun.
Yes. I was on the 2021 where
There
as
was no
soon as we got
2021,
off,
was there?
there
No, yeah,
was
no 2020, and then they jumped to 22.
I was making, never mind. I made a 2021
2020.
joke.
Oh,
Never mind.
yeah. But the one in 2020, I was on that one.
Yeah,
And then the world shut down as soon as
yeah,
we
yeah. We were
got
Okay,
off
literally
board
either
the
last or
last
second to
ship.
last ship to
before
come
we
in with
entered the
that. We
Yeah.
upside
had
down.
flu on board. We had a lot of flu. I mean, I ended up
Yeah.
where I was like, something is very, very wrong, but thankfully it was just the flu. But yeah, we were the last ones
Oh.
that didn't have COVID, so we didn't never got quarantined. They just let us in and everybody left.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
so
I have a lot of questions about that, but I feel like that's a downer.
shoot.
So
Yeah.
like, I kind of am curious about that. But okay, so this year, day one, I don't know if you remember day one. Are you one that it takes you a minute to get your sea legs? Are you one where it's like day one, let's go nuts,
Yeah.
let's party,
I
let's get the rage and rave happening? How was day one? How did it first start?
day
Was
one.
day one all at
Oh.
sea?
No, so day one is technically the embarkation day. So,
Hmm.
so numbering, it's day one. And it was not, it's first not, it didn't start very well at first
It was
because,
rainy or something, right?
as new as it turned out, well, it's tropics. So it actually like rained for 5 minutes and then it stopped.
Okay.
No, what happened was first of all, there was way too many ships. Depending on who you ask, 8 ships, 9 ships, 10 ships. The terminals were filled with ships, and all of them were late because apparently there was a significant fog offshore. So the ships getting in were late. So the people disembarking were late. Meanwhile, people who are supposed to be embarking the said ships that are all have supposed to be leaving were coming in when they were supposed to be coming in. And so there was double traffic and it got quite literally insane. I read an article saying that something like 32,000 people were affected. Now,
Wow.
there was
Wow.
only
Sounds
two ways.
that
Yeah,
sounds
two ways to
terminal.
it was insane. I have a couple of friends who were literally given roughly about a 25-minute ride from where the hotels are, well, majority of the people were staying to the port, actually spent something like 3.5 hours in Ubers, taxis, whatever, trying to get in. Some people eventually basically abandoned the taxis and walked. There are two ways of getting there. There is a bridge and there is a tunnel, and the powers that be were alternating, trying to meter the traffic getting in and out of the port by shutting down, reopening both. So my sister and I got lucky. It only took us hour and a half to get in the port, and we literally got to the tunnel when they closed it down for the first time. Like we literally on approach, and the little red crosses come over all the lanes. And our Lyft driver was he's like, "That's weird. They literally just shut down the tunnel. What happened?" So we had
Wow.
to back out, go around, do a U-turn, and try to get in via the bridge, and it took a long time. So that was a joke. So
Wow.
sort of like people passing pictures. It's like I survived the the awful traffic of the Star Trek Cruise 8. So the ship left. We were supposed to leave, I think, at 4. Instead, it was more like I want to say 5:10, 5:15. The launch party started roughly plus minus about the normal time. What is the launch party? Everybody basically goes on deck, pool deck, deck 11,
It's a lot of
and deck
fun.
12. There's a small stage. JT, the cruise director, does his speech, carries out the UFP flag. Everybody takes the oath to take fun. And then the actors come out and basically kind of say, "Hi, great to see everybody," or "Hi, this is my first cruise." Sometimes if they have some kind of special performance, they might say, "Come see me on, I don't know, Tuesday night. I'm doing this
Hmm.
play reading." Or
Yeah.
something. So not everybody is necessarily there. So, for example, this particular cruise, we had sort of like a half thing. Kate was coming on board on Wednesday, and she boarded in Cozumel. At the same time, in Cozumel, Robbie McNeil, Celia Rose Gooding, Melissa Navia, and Jerry Ryan left In case of
They all flew
Celia
out.
and Melissa, because they had to fly out to Toronto, they're
Right.
filming. And in case of Robbie, he was trying to make sure he'll be there the whole week. He couldn't. He's in the same thing. He's in the middle of directing, and so it was like he had to be there for the anniversary. So that was the agreement. He'll be there for half a week. And it was lovely. So they, instead of having one large Voyager cast panel, as one would expect, we actually ended up with two. There was one on Monday that had Robbie, Garrett, Tim, and oh God, and who else? I'm losing my mind.
Jerry,
And Jerry. And
that
then
was just a
the
guess.
second one had, yeah, Kate, Roxanne, Bob, and Ethan, and also Brandon Braga joined them.
Oh, fun,
So
fun,
it was,
fun.
oh, it was delightful. You know what? It actually worked out very nicely. So we had to sort of like, Voyager started the whole
Is
thing
Ethan
and ended the
Phillips
whole
still
thing.
really mad at him,
At whom? Sorry, you broke up.
Brannon?
Not really. No, no. Why would
Okay.
he be
I'm
mad
just
at
starting
Brandon?
rumors. No, there's no
Oh,
problem there.
you.
There's nothing there at all.
You
I don't
heard
Yeah.
it
think
So
here
Ethan's
first,
ever been
folks.
mad
yeah.
at
So
anybody.
day one,
Yeah.
day one started a bit stressfully for a lot of folk, and then finally we were on board. They opened the cabins at the time that they were supposed to. There was the usual cake in the big buffet, which I know some people are trying to taste it. I would recommend not doing it. Just look at it, take pictures, and then move on. And then yeah, we have
Yeah.
the launch party, and then yeah, you already have some content happening. There's actually, you know what? I can tell you what was happening on Sunday. There was a wonderful, basically, Voyager themed Voyager Feud, sorry, Family Feud game, which was hilarious. There were a
Love
couple
it.
of trivia games, and they showed first contact on the pool deck. So,
Oh,
from the
cool.
get-go, you already have stuff happening. Yeah. And so yeah, and then yeah, day two, that's when you have basically a full day of programming where things just start going from like I want to say like 9 o'clock. Jerry was doing photo ops. Dr. Aaron did Year in Space. We had Larry Nemechek having a panel. The first Voyager panel was there. A Strange New Worlds panel was there. There was a fabulous event which I don't think we ever had equivalent really at both any Star Trek event. It was called Star Trek Goes to Opera, and that was Bob Picardo bringing in
Right.
his friend, an actual operatic tenor, um, Arturo Chacon
Arturo.
Cruz.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And also his wife Benicia was there, who's a soprano. And this was spectacular because they all sang. The uh, Kind of surprised because I don't think she was announced. At least I didn't not see her name in the schedule. Was Johnny Zelis, who the Klingon singer.
Oh,
So she
cool.
came out in full Klingon
Oh,
garb. She sang an aria from Ur, which is a Klingon opera. And then, so basically, you had this mixture of, opera of various kinds, and they ended the evening, they were singing Hallelujah, both in English and in Klingon. And it was amazing. They evening shows usually get separated because the largest theater can only fit roughly about half the people that are on board. So they do red cards and blue cards. Blue cards is early show, red cards are evening show. In this case, obviously, they probably wouldn't be able to pull off an event like this twice in one evening. They separated the blue card show was on Monday, and then the red show was like I think 2 days after that. And people who were in my show, I was a blue card. Everybody was in the cruise groups on Facebook going, it's like, guys, if you're thinking it's like, oh, opera, boring, boring. No, no, no. Make sure you actually go because this is, nothing like you've never seen anything like this before.
And
It was
Picardo
spectacular.
did a couple verses from his famous Voyager moment
Yes,
with
with
Tuvok.
Tuvok,
Oh,
yes.
so good.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was great. It was absolutely great. So yeah, so it's things really kind of like went pretty quickly, kind of like got into the whole vibe of, Star Trek Celebration, specifically Voyager Celebration. And yeah, we had three port days in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. As we already discussed, some people stayed on board, other people went out. We actually had a couple of short excursions with my sister, which were spectacular. I
Oh,
mean, that was a
I saw one on a
gosh.
little mini boat where you and your sister were hanging out with a couple VIPs. Who were they?
yes. Yeah.
Oh.
No, we were on the same boat with Kate. So we were basically just sitting there. So, Belize City, it's what is called tender port, which means you can't just walk out. The ship is not parked at the port. It actually is a little bit out because it's too shallow for the ship to come closely. So little boats you have to get on, and then the boat will take you from the ship to the shore to the port. And I think the cruise director said it was about 5 miles. So yeah, so we had like a 5 mile boat ride in each direction with Kate. That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that all
and
sounds
you
like, sorry,
took
Melissa.
pictures in front of a pyramid.
Oh yeah. Let me actually.
Which I was fangirling
Yes.
about because it was so awesome. Your pictures were great. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
incredible.
an actual real Mayan ruin and Mayan pyramid. Granted, I mean, this is a minor state that's not necessarily too old. I would love at some point to take a proper tour, then go to like Tikal or Palenque or Chichen Itza. At this point, this was a
Yeah.
lovely trip with a fabulous guide. We got very lucky because the person who was guiding this, it's the Chakchaben ruins, literally had 150% preparation. She had maps, she had colors of snakes we might encounter, the types of animals that live in the area, all sorts of, like she had basically a copy of one of the Mayan codices that actually survives. A lot of them were unfortunately destroyed during colonial times. So it was a fabulous trip. And then on top of everything else, it's a Star Trek cruise. So it's like,
And it's a Star Trek cruise.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it was great
That's
fun.
so
Great
great.
fun.
Oh,
I
that's so
mean, and in
fun.
Cozumel is mostly it's far more touristy, if you will. So
Hmm.
there's not that much of historical nature to see. So I think the most fun thing is that we got to take pictures with a large parrot and then ended up in chocolate and tequila tasting. So,
Oh,
which was highly enjoyable, so
okay.
much so that we accidentally boarded the wrong trolley to go back to the port, but that's a
Oh
separate
Wow.
no.
Wow, drunk off chocolate.
story.
So, maybe the other stuff too, but that all sounds like a lot of fun.
Hmm.
What was the night where it was like a shared birthday party? That looked like it was
Uh, let me see.
incredibly fun. I think it was Tawny and Celia, was it?
Yeah, this one. So again, this is the issue with having many things happening at once. And let me actually see what
Right. And
I
there are
was
like
doing
three
because
stages, right? Like there's a big
yes,
stage, a
so
medium
there is
stage, and like a
the
smaller.
yeah, so the Royal Palace, which is an actual theater. So in terms of, acoustics and lights and screens and everything else, that's probably the highest quality of that kind of entertainment you can possibly imagine compared to any other event. Then there is something called Studio B, which is actually an ice rink. So had this been a regular cruise, you can bring your own skates or they will rent you skates and you can skate.
That's
There are
amazing.
probably some kind of ice shows. During the charter cruises, they cover it all up. The ice is still there, so Studio B is the coldest space in on the entire ship. But it becomes basically a secondary theater. And then, of course, you have a lounge, which was renamed Voyager Lounge for this particular trip. And it's well, it does look like a lounge. It's basically a whole bunch of like little settees and chairs. No stage to speak of. It's more like just an area with, they could put the lights and hang another screen. And most of the trivia games were held there, for instance. So I'm actually, let me look very quickly and see what on earth was I doing when there was a double birthday because there were literally three things happening at the same time. And oh yeah, so the I don't think I suppose should I pronounce the name of the event because it was called the Bad Beach Birthday Bash. So
Yes.
the bash was the birthday for Celia and Tony, and I skipped it because I opted to go and see the revised version of To the Journey. They were screening it the same time,
Oh man,
roughly,
at the same time, that's a
and
tough decision right
yeah, I
there.
know. And what's more, there was
Yeah.
an additional thing. So they actually made David had two screenings. There was this one in the evening, and then there was another one, I want to say Saturday morning, probably. I went to this one because Robbie was still on board and he did sort of like an introduction before the screening. And I opted to do that. The third thing that was happening, they were screening the Undiscovered Country on the pool deck. So people really have a variety of things to choose from, whatever you want to do. So those folks who really wanted to party, they went to Tony's thing, of course. I just decided that I really want to see what the changes are that Joe implied during the virtual TrekCon, so I went to the screening instead, and I loved it.
Yeah,
Again,
how did you enjoy the screening? Because you've seen the
uh,
screening a few
yes,
times now. What'd you think of it?
yes, that's right. Well, it was very enjoyable, and again, it's enjoyable because you see it as part of a large group, so you can sort of like there's the atmosphere of hearing other people reacting to what's on the screen. Again, lots of applause in certain predictable spaces, so it was great stuff. So yes, it has been modified based on the feedback from the New York, LA, and London screenings. Basically what Joe said, everything that they started to work on to address the constructive criticism, so to speak. There were some additional scenes that were added. Some of the contact has been, I suppose, excised because it's not going to go away. As we all know, there's going to be pretty substantial special features once the discs are released. So it was fun, and again, it was great to see both David and Robbie on the stage talking about the film.
Hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful. So again, I wish I could be in multiple places at the same time. Unfortunately, you have to pick and
Sounds
choose when you're
tough.
on board.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
tough. I do remember that. I remember having to decide, like, do I want to watch
Yeah.
Family Feud,
Hmm.
or do I want to see
Hmm.
a musical performance, or do I want to see a
Hmm.
panel, or,
Yeah.
you
The
Yeah.
know,
um the conflict that I regret the most probably is actually I think it was either Monday or Tuesday morning, Monday morning. Dr. Aaron was doing specifically a science seminar. It was like, this year in science. So all the scientific things that happened over the last year between all the
cool.
various telescopes and findings and then, and the eclipse,
That's so
everything.
cool.
Parallel to that, Connor Trinier was doing one of his famous live interviews. It's called In the Hot Seat with Connor Trinier, and it was featuring Roxanne Dawson,
Oh,
who is
fun.
Oh,
she's
Oh,
basically a version of the unicorn. She doesn't come
right.
along very
Especially
right.
because
frequently
there's
at
such bad
conventions.
blood between the two of them, right?
No, come on. He's trying to start rumors again. No, but she's the very rare guest because she is constantly incredibly busy. The fact that she's actually,
Hmm.
agreed to come, for an entire week
Constantly
on a
working.
cruise is an unbelievable treat. And she was wonderful. She was doing uh I went to tropical cocktails tasting with Roxanne. Believe me, this was a delight.
Oh,
So
that's
I
cool.
am bummed because I really wanted to hear the science seminar, which I ultimately ended up in, and I had to miss the interview. And let me tell you, Connor really digs in. I mean, sometimes he asks questions, and the actors, literally whoever he has at the gas, kind of go,
Yeah.
"Nobody's ever asked me that, ever."
He's
So
very good at that.
those are
Like
really
I
great
think he's
interviews.
found
Yeah,
another niche in interviewing people because he
yeah.
does dig deep and he does ask questions that I don't know if other people are afraid to ask or just don't think to ask, but no, Connor's great at interviewing.
Yeah, so it's a
Don't
bit of a
ask about
bummer. I wish
horses.
I could have seen it. I did see his interview with Robbie. That was wonderful. They just sat down and it's like, like watching two good friends, they were missing like they should have had like whiskeys in their hands because it was like a wonderful chat between two friends.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was just remembering there's almost like a fourth or fifth stage too, because like there's also like the one that's kind of like in a bar, where they do like science talks
Yes.
sometimes, right? I
Yeah.
can't remember what it's
Hmm.
called, but there's
Mm.
like a one
So
that's
it's
it's
usually the Schooner Bar, and they renamed
Schooner
it this
Bar.
year. It was Captain Gordon's. So
Okay.
it's
Cool.
part of the events are happening. So for example, there was a version of Wordle renamed Nerdle that Rob Perlman did. That was done in the Schooner Bar.
Mhm.
There were also, I think. I think there was something with sciences, but I missed out because I was either doing photo ops or something else. It was a conflict.
Right.
It's
And then
also
also
now
I was just gonna say, and then another one is like on the deck. The deck is also used as a
yeah.
stage in some ways
Yeah.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So, constantly. So that's where Band 47 would play every once in a while.
Hmm.
I realized that I barely made it outside. I mean, except for the shore excursions. There was just so much stuff happening that I never,
Yeah.
23, I remember I had like several days when I'd be like, I have nothing to do. I'm literally just gonna, take my iPhone, put the earphones in, and just go around
I
the
thought I
athletic
was gonna
track.
do that a lot when I
Yeah.
went on the cruise in 22, but
No.
like I did not see the light of day. I mean, we're shooting some stuff for the
They
Voyager
did.
documentary too,
Yeah.
but like I still thought that there'd be time. but there really wasn't. Like there's stuff
No,
constantly
no.
going on, and I
There
wanted to
Yeah.
just
is.
go out
Yeah.
on the deck and just play because it's a really big deck and you want to hang
Yeah.
out on it.
So
Yeah.
the fun part that was outside, it was an
Yes.
event that was I think it was done for the first time last year and it was hugely successful. A lot of people showed up. So they decided to repeat it. And again, pretty much anything involving Dr. Erin, that's like a guaranteed A plus, 100% experience, just
Hmm.
go for it. Doesn't matter what she's doing. She's hosting or she's doing talking science. In this case, it was stargazing. So as you may know, we
That's so
actually
cool.
in the middle of this very rare alignment where you can see a whole lot of planets at the same time in the sky.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, cool.
I want to say quarter to 11, we went outside on deck 13. So that's like the only thing above it is that deck 14 has like a lounge. I think that's the top. We're basically at the top of the ship.
Right.
Yeah.
And the idea was, yeah, let's get together and Dr. Aaron will come and we'll discuss what we can actually see because again, Caribbean, gorgeous, clear skies. Not
Love that.
perfect necessarily because the ship is moving, so you can't do
Right.
telescope. You just have to use your eyes. Unless I mean, I suppose you
Oh,
can bring
right.
binoculars, but it's also not perfect. And also, of course, the ship cannot turn off the safety lights. So there is,
Mm.
that thing where you still have light pollution, so we can only see that much. Nevertheless, I went up there probably maybe 20 minutes before the scheduled time, and there was about five people milling around, which is fine. Within 30 minutes, there was probably about 100 people there, and everybody's just like, well, it's not very comfortable just standing. It's quite windy, actually. It's not comfortable to sit on the deck. Why don't we actually use all the deck chairs, which were
Yeah.
very carefully already assembled for the night by the by the crew? We pulled all those piles apart and everybody just basically, I don't know, Trek is self-organized. Somebody picked a direction and everybody kind of put their deck chairs in a row. And everybody just leaned back and staring in the sky, waiting
Oh,
for Dr.
that's
Aaron to
cool.
show up.
Oh, how
Like a
cool.
hundred people, and then more people came, and more people came. She finally came, and whoever had stargazing apps, she recommended a few, and yeah, it was just basically sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, you see this? That's Sirius right there," and you can see, constellation Leo, and on and on and on, like all the little things. We were sitting right underneath Mars. I think I kind of confused my sister who decided to join at the last moment. And she said, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm on deck 13, right underneath Mars." So
Can't miss me.
can't
I'm
miss me, no.
underneath Mars.
And of course, the crew, who at first were very confused why there are people sitting in the dark in the deck chairs. Like, what are we? Oh, we catching sunlight, What, very distant sunlight, not our sunlight, but never starlight. So they immediately somebody sent word because two people showed up with wine and liquor cards. And they were like, "Would you like to buy some, whatever?" Because it's kind of cold outside. And that's what we were doing. Some folks bought something and we were watching, discussing astronomy with Dr. Aaron on deck.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
here's a tough
Astronomy is
question for
so
you,
fun.
Yeah.
Marina. It's a toughie. Here it comes. Narrow it down 7 days.
Hmm.
Top three experiences.
Mm.
I know.
All right.
I know. Okay.
So
Wow, that
in
was quick.
terms of stuff that was happening on board, I'd probably say, it's going to be very hard to pick Saturday because Saturday was very full, and that's the one that had both the Voyager, second Voyager panel, and it had Kate's own evening with Kate Mulgrew in the evening. So that probably
Oh,
is going to be at the top of the list because this was spectacular. As usual, you had like 100% people were literally walking out of the panels and out of specifically her show, sort of like empowered. Everybody felt better, considering the current circumstances. So there was a lot of
mhm.
it was a great talk. Most certainly the Chakchaban ruins. This was a great thing. I think that's my favorite excursion of any that I've taken so far on the cruises. And as far as the third one, oh gosh, this is gonna be tough. You know what? Let me.
While you're
Mm,
thinking, thank you to KL Bliss for the super
Ah,
chat. Great stuff. We really
Oh,
appreciate you. Were you on the cruise? It sounds like she was, and I bet you she's
yeah.
going to be in
Well,
Vegas as well.
in the live chat earlier, she said that she's been on 7 cruises. This would be her
wow.
seventh.
Yeah. There
wow.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Amazing.
think the third one I would probably have to go with it's going to be a toss-up. So I already spoke about how incredible Star Trek Goes to Opera was. A similar thing that happens, which is something that John Delancey puts on every single cruise, would be some kind of a play reading or Like in this
Yeah.
case, he literally created it was like a radio play, very true.
Mm.
Like with the way
Huh.
it would have sounded way back when it was the War of the Worlds. So I didn't count how many actors were on the stage, and there were I think a couple of folks from the audience who actually participated in rehearsals, and so they were part of the cast. It was a modified version because obviously the entire War of the Worlds would not have taken hour and a half. It would have been a much longer experience, which I'm sure a lot of people probably wouldn't have minded. But you have to keep it compact. So between those, so all of that, so it's the Voyager and Kate's panel and the ruins and the performances. Spectacular. I mean, I'm not even gonna bring up the tastings because that's like a whole other thing.
Oh my gosh.
I did a whiskey tasting and as I
The
already mentioned, the
chocolate.
tropical cocktails with Roxanne.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about the buffet? I found myself in the buffet like every time because I'm just like, when you're hungry, it's just so easy to walk into a buffet, just grab food. You don't have to wait for the food. You just grab stuff. I mean, I'm vegetarian, so I just found
Yeah.
myself living off potatoes basically. But like, but I'm sure if I ate meat, I'd be like, cool,
Potatoes.
fish.
So
Yeah.
even easier is to stop by Cafe Promenade, which basically deals in pizza the entire day.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That
Oh
and
yeah.
too.
it's I mean I had
Yes.
two days in a row where it was like it just quicker to run by and say, I'll have 2 slices of pepperoni and just keep running.
Keep moving in
Um
with your life, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I did find this particular Windjammer, and I'm actually curious if that's the difference in ships, because the ships were coming out of different ports. It felt far more limited than the ones in 23
Interesting.
and 22. Yeah, I forget which
Hmm.
one. 22 or 23 had a spectacular Asian selection. I remember there were unbelievable curries. These guys did not have that. So again, there's just
Hmm.
variation between different chefs and different foods probably.
Yeah.
So I didn't do Windjammer as much purely because it was just easier. Again, grab something during the day when I'm on deck five, and then to actually go and have a full meal either at main dining room or in one of the specialty restaurants in the evening. So that's basically
Yeah.
was my entire week just kind of went that way.
Well,
Here's one more. Sorry,
I
go ahead,
don't.
Melissa.
I mean, I was gonna throw out there, and all of the ice cream. There's a lot of ice cream
Yes.
on board for
No, they
this.
didn't have coffee ice cream, which I found very upsetting, seeing it
Oh,
was a Voyager celebration. I know. At some point, I was forced to do
That's
with
it.
tiramisu ice cream and raspberry sorbet. It was very disappointing. Yes.
yum.
Oh, but that sounds good though. Well, let me
It
ask you
does
this,
sound good.
Marina. This is
Yeah.
interesting for me to enjoy. Give me the top three guests that you are most excited to see. I mean,
See,
this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to take Kate Mulgrew out of this because I know that's number one. So I'm going to make it easy on
Right.
you because otherwise you'd
yeah.
have to come up with just squeeze two. But now you have three people that you can pick. So let's
Mm,
say Kate Mulgrew, she's not even a guest. She's like a goddess. Okay. She's up there
yes.
somewhere in the nebula with the coffee. Okay. So give us your top three other than that.
Top three other than that. Well, I adore Dr. Erin. Like as I said, she is
Yeah.
spectacular in terms of whether she's hosting a panel. So, for example, she did host a second Voyager panel, or she's doing anything science
Oops.
or whiskey tastings. So, you can't go wrong. She's incredible. Um, who else was I excited to see? You know what? It's always fun to see Jerry because
Hmm.
especially like it's difference between Estelia and Cruz because Estelia tends to have her just doing Q&As, whereas here they actually, I'm assuming she probably agreed to do that. She was part of the Family Feud. She was part of, she was doing the trivia games. So she did multiple things. And it was hilarious because, I mean, we know that she has a spectacular sense of humor, but, trivia games, she would sit there and before reading her question to the audience, she would be like, oh, I know that one. I know that one.
Hmm.
So it was just laugh out loud funny all throughout whatever she was doing. And I mean, she was trying to corral her team during Family Feud. So that was Tim and Garrett. And
Oh,
so
good
yeah, so
luck.
she was funny. And as for the third
You?
one, oh God, this is impossible. It's just generally impossible to pick because I love these people so much. You know what? Oh God, who do I even pick? I will say Roxanne, because she is wonderful, and we don't see her as often as I'm sure people don't even realize how what a delight she is. I mean, I've been lucky that I've seen her at various conventions before. Those folks who don't do that, they only do the cruises. So, it's now, and previous time she was way back in 2020. She's a rare guest, and again, everything else that she participated in was lovely. Which was she did the one of the performances, she did that tasting and the panel.
Mm.
So they all end up doing multiple things ultimately during the cruise. So I guess that's a pretty good top three. Which is not to say that I wasn't thrilled to see, like say Denise doing her
Everybody.
crazy
Yeah.
galactic improv and everything else. They're
Right.
they're they're wonderful people. I mean, Frakes actually hosted a couple of things, and he's
Oh,
always
cool.
fun. Yeah.
One thing to mention before we move on is unfortunately, Dr. Mohammed Noor was not able to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm sure he'd be
Hmm.
somewhere in that top three and amongst the highlights. He is so cool and so fun to have on the cruise and to have in
Absolutely.
Vegas and everywhere. And I'm sure his presence was missed.
Yeah, absolutely. What's more,
Yeah.
I had his science breakfast in my schedule because he wasn't
Oh, that's the
everywhere in
Oh
best.
preliminary
man.
scale. And when I was like, what happened to the breakfast? They're not on the like, because what happens is they give you preliminary schedule, then you come on board, they give you a nicely printed schedule, which as JT said, you got it. You look at it, sniff it, nice fresh smell of printed
Yeah.
materials,
And it's
and then put it
daily.
away because that's not what. Yes, well, the printed full brochure is actually completely because it gets printed before they know the final version of
Right.
what's going to be happening each day. And then yes, you get just a daily page every night. So as I was looking, I'm like, what happened? There was supposed to be a breakfast Monday morning that I was planning to attend before going to Dr. Aaron's science thing. So it's like two science. So it's unfortunate that he got sick because he was missed.
No.
They asked one of the morale officers, which is it's a group of about I think 6 or 7 ladies who basically they're like all around helpers. They know where everything is. They can help out. They can take pictures. They actually host some of the events on board. And one of the ladies was basically roped into reading his biology questions during the science trivia, which was so hard. So, Muhammad, my God, it was impossible
Oh.
between Dr. Aaron's physics and your biology. Oh man, we suffered. We suffered. Out of 20 questions, I think the most that anybody got was 14. My sister and I managed 12,
Wow.
and it was
Wow.
hard. That's the hardest trivia
Yeah.
on board, let me tell you.
Well,
Yeah.
so it just goes to show Muhammad's no longer allowed to get sick ever again.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he
Ever
would agree with
again.
you. I think he likes that new rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, any final thoughts on the cruise since we're all living vicariously through
Um,
you? Any final thoughts
so
or any advice you'd give to somebody that wants to try it for a first time of do's and
Oh,
don'ts?
absolutely. Well, I mean, in terms of advice, it's all very dependent on what people are actually looking for. I mean, some folks coming in with tons of luggage because they plan to cosplay and take part in all the themed night parties and everything. And then others who are coming in with like literally a couple of t-shirts and they plan to just chill and relax and not even bother with a lot of programming. It's a very different thing. If it's your first time, I most definitely recommend joining the Facebook groups. There are two. There is a general one, was just Star Trek The Cruise. And then there's usually a numbered one, which is specific to a given cruise. So there is already a Cruise 9 group that is live. And I suggest joining it because pretty much everybody who's going to be in it, any questions asked, that's the place to go. As far as I know, ECP, the company that charters the cruise, kind of keeps track of what folks are talking about. They're not actively participating, but I know that they're aware that these groups exist. And what's more, when people are in a situation where they have to let go their cabins for whatever reason, they even recommend like make sure to check out a
Hmm.
thread in the numbered group because there's going to be people basically saying, I'm looking for a roommate or I'm giving up my cabin. So you can connect and then ECP will facilitate the exchange basically. It's
Cool.
it's a fun event. I mean, there's just so much things. I mean, both physical things. I mean, I'll show a couple of stuff. Um, Programming, viewings, and panels, and games and performances. It's an all-around wonderful event. I'm sure it's not something that necessarily people can afford to go to every year. This is not a cheap trip. You have to there are payment plans basically. I mean, this one event that I just went, it took basically a year to set up and plan and pay for. But it is one of a kind, and certainly, if you want to try something different from a land convention, yeah, it is an unconventional experience.
Mhm.
Comparing, like Vegas to this, it's like apples and oranges. It's not the same thing.
Right.
I love both of
So
those things.
so do
I
I. It's
know.
completely different.
Especially in juice form.
Yeah.
Oh, mm.
Wait, well, which one
So,
which one is the orange juice?
mm, uh,
I want Vegas to
prob
be orange
prob
juice.
probably, yeah, I was gonna say Vegas.
No, but
Somehow
you
it just
probably need the orange for the scurvy on the cruise, right?
Right.
That's true.
Oh.
That's
Ah,
true.
this
But
is
yeah,
too
but Vegas
confusing.
is not an apple. Vegas is not. We should probably pick a different, I don't know. Like we should
You're
ask
right.
Katie. Maybe she'll pick some kind of unusual thing that she got to try, and that would be Vegas.
Vegas is the pomegranate.
Yeah. And the
Something like
dragon
that.
fruit.
So very quickly to show you something. So this is actually something specific to the Star Trek cruise because it is a cruise. You
Right.
get daily gifts. So
Love
I don't
that.
have all of them with me, but just to show you
Yes.
something that we had. Well, first of all, there was the shirt, and there is something called a cruise shirt party, which I think was either Thursday or Friday. Everybody gets on the pool deck, and you have games, and you have music, and there are free drinks, which were colored with the original series colors this year. That was fun. So there was like,
Oh,
the blue
cool.
ones with tequila, I think, and the yellow ones had vodka, and the red ones was a rum punch. So it was great fun. Chase actually jumped into the pool. That was as part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, great fun. So you get something like, well, the shirt, you get a hat, as you can see, beautiful burgundy color this year.
Yeah.
You
Nice.
get there was a set of pins, which unfortunately I haven't unpacked yet, but it was Voyager themed. You got a very nice fanny pack that has the cudograms from the Voyager master display. So I can't really
Love
see it
it.
here, but you can see here that it's Voyager. And the
Ooh.
pièce de résistance, as they say, is actual coffee. So this
That's
is whole
so
bean
cool.
coffee that they gave out. Some people already tried it, and I'm told it's good. I think I probably will drink it at some point, but for now I'm just smelling it. It's really nice. I was worried I'll be stopped by TSA, but they weren't very much interested by this or the unidentified charges that I had from the craft swap. So I got lucky, I guess. And so delightful things like this. Plus, there was a lanyard and a poster. As a matter of fact, you know what? Very quickly, as I'm saying this, I'll show you what the poster looks because again, it was all Voyager and it was lovely, but it has the entire cast of the sailing actors this year. So as you can
Oh,
see,
cool.
as
Nice.
everybody.
Beautiful.
Um, lovely. And then of course, again, you get miscellanea. People swap cruise docks. You have if you go to any of the tastings, you get uh collectible, things that have Star Trek Cruise logoed on them.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Great fun. Great fun.
Man, I want a cool cruise
Mm.
rocks glass. I got some cruise socks and we have some cruise blue shirt. I really liked the color that year.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
burgundy is
Though,
beautiful too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people were kind of like, wow. Last year, since I wasn't on board, but one of my friends gave me her hat as a gift. It was actually much more tropical. It was a very large straw hat with like tropical theme
Really?
design. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
Oh,
fun.
I know.
that's
I've heard a lot
awesome.
of people had trouble packing them because, like in my case, I would have had that trouble. I usually travel carry on, believe it or not. So I would have had no way of packing it. I probably would have had to wear
Mm.
on the plane.
That would be great.
That
Yeah.
works too.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's exciting. It makes me want to jump on another cruise one of these
Yeah,
days.
well, next year is going to
Same.
be a big one. It's going to be
10.
60th
Same.
anniversary.
And
So they
Star
already
Trek
Nine.
announced the
10.
captain is going to be Shatner. Uh,
Mm.
that's right.
It's gonna be the Star Trek
So
the Cruise number
it's
10.
Number
no,
nine.
it's number nine,
Oh,
number
really? I
nine.
thought it was 10. I thought this one
Nine.
was 9. Oh,
No, no,
okay.
no. It's this one was eight. So yeah,
So
so they
two
have
big ones in a
Shatner's
row then.
coming,
You have the
Walter's
60th
coming.
and then you
Yeah.
have the 10th.
Well,
Wow.
we kind of live in an era of anniversaries because 27 is going to be TNG's next anniversary. It's like literally
Mm.
something is happening every year now.
Right.
Thanks so much for watching that clip. We go live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern with all the latest Star Trek news on the virtual TrekCon channel.